Hello, my name is Gene Monterastelli, and I am the editor of TappingQA.com. And the video that you are about to watch is an interview that I did as part of the 24 Hours of Tapping. The 24 Hours of Tapping was a free event, which was a fundraiser for the Peaceful Heart Network. The Peaceful Heart Network provides training and trauma relief tools to those in war-torn countries, as well as working with refugees all over the world. They've been able to help out over 200,000 people all over the world. After you watch this video, if you find this video something that was useful, the very easy way that you can say thank you to the guest for giving their time and sharing their expertise is to go to 24hoursoftapping.com/support and make a small contribution to support the Peaceful Heart Network. Again, that is 24hoursoftapping.com/support, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. My next guest, it's always very interesting to be reading a bio of someone I chat with all the time. Pamela Bruner is a business coach, an author, a speaker, and an EFT expert. After removing her own discomfort with marketing and sales, Pamela built her business from a $375 a month to annual sales of over $1 million in less than 3 years. She specializes in working with conscious entrepreneurs to build 6- and 7-figure businesses by combining effective strategy and cutting-edge mindset tools. She is the co-author of Tapping into Ultimate Success, which was a book and a DVD series that was done by Jack Canfield, the co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Please welcome my friend, Pamela Bruner. Hello, friend.
I am so honored to be here, Gene. Thank you for having me as part of this extraordinary event.
Absolutely. I wouldn't do it without you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to spend a little time talking about mindset and money and business. And so we're going to get a chance to talk about two of the things that you and I get to talk about a lot together, is our money mindset and then our business self and our personal self and the way those two things interact. And so before we get into all of that, one of the things I've been asking people a lot as we start these is people's origin story, not their tapping origin story, but their origin story around the concept that we're dealing with right here. So I would love for people to hear how you found your way to using tapping as a tool in your business as a mindset tool to help you to have the success that I just talked about in your bio.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to tell that story. So when I actually learned tapping when I was training to be a coach, and it's interesting that even though I had those resources and I had training, I still spent several years having what I call an imaginary coaching business, where you say you're a coach, you have 2 clients, and one of them is coaching for free. And that's because although I was using tapping for my clients, I wasn't really using it for myself in a business sense. And when I started saying, oh, okay, so I hate the idea of going to networking events. I go to networking events and I cry. I don't like the idea of doing a sales conversation. That's very uncomfortable for me. When I started looking at those things and then applying the tapping tools to them, that's when everything changed. I was able to take the steps that I needed to take to learn the strategic and the tactical things, but also to have the courage to step forward. And so sometimes we use tapping in one area of our lives, but not in another that should be very obvious. And when it became obvious, I started doing it.
And I think that's something that's really important to recognize is that, we show up in the world in lots of different ways. For me, it was just the opposite that, professionally, I felt comfortable in all of those particular settings. And for me, it was, oh yeah, it's this thing in my personal life that I really need to be learning into. And so I think it's good for us to recognize ourselves as multidimensional creatures, and the way that we show up with confidence and competence, where one setting, it can feel like we are 100% inside of our power in doing something, and another setting being completely out of our depth, and being able to have the, I guess, wherewithal or humility to recognize the fact that, oh, just because I'm good over here doesn't mean that I don't need support and help in these other places.
Absolutely. And because I coach coaches and energy healers and people like that, often they come in thinking, well, I've really got the mindset piece handled, help me with strategy, Pamela. And then I say, I'm happy to do that until the time when you can't implement the strategy, and then we're going to tap. So happy to bring that tapping to this conversation today.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, for me, it's like it's time for me to tap when I know what to do, I know how to do it, I know the value of it. And like one of the rules I have is if I have something on my to-do list that gets copied to the next day 3 times, then I have to set up a call with my practitioner. Like that, for me, that's an internal gauge that's saying, oh, you've clearly stated this is an intention for you inside of your business, and 3 days in a row you have not done something. That's the internal red flag for me saying, okay, great, you need to go do something about this to engage with that in a different way.
I love that rule. It's a great one.
And so like I said, the two things that we want to talk about, the first one is money mindset. So for you, what is money mindset? How is that defined? And then how does that show up in our lives, either just inside of our personal finances or for those of us who are entrepreneurs and running businesses and navigating this?
Well, there are a lot of definitions for money mindset, and I'm guessing that people watching right now probably have a variety of definitions for it and believe they have a good understanding. So I'm going to talk about a phrase that is part of money mindset, but I think often it is at the core of money challenges in your business. And that's the concept of money set point. A
Mm-hmm.
money, as I know you know, Gene, a money set point is the amount of money that you believe it is appropriate to pay for anything. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that is your mortgage or rent, a car, a piece of clothing, a dinner out, Starbucks changed forever our money mindset about coffee. Like it
Right.
used to be, oh my gosh, the mini mart just raised the price from 69 to 79 cents. I'm not stopping there anymore. And now we happily pay $5 to $8 for a cup of coffee. And that kind of thing, that's a small example, but the proportions are interesting because you can have, and the other thing that's really interesting to me about money mindset is it is not uniform across the board. So it means that someone who is well off does not necessarily have a high money set point for everything, and someone who is someone who has fewer resources does not necessarily have a poor money set or lower money set point. I'll tell you a great story about this that I just think brilliantly illustrates it. So I live in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a place with a lot of really interesting alternative people in it. And so there was a conversation I overheard at a coffee counter once. Two women were sitting nearby, and they were very obviously waitresses. They were talking about, waiting tables and things like that. And then one of them said, "So when are you getting the tattoo?" And the other one said, "I am so excited. I am flying to California next week to get a tattoo from my favorite tattoo artist." Now, Asheville, North Carolina is on the east coast of the United States. She's flying all the way to the other side of the United States to get a tattoo when there are numerous tattoo parlors in Asheville. So I listened to this and thought, wow, this woman who, to all intents and purposes, does not have a lot of money, she has a very high money set point for the artwork that she's willing to put on her body. I found that mind blowing. And since then, I've seen many, many other examples. I think you and I have talked about the fact that you have a high money set point for bespoke suits and a low money set point, couldn't care less what you spend on exercise gear. And
Right.
I understand that. So as you start looking at, wow, what do I have a high money set point for? A lot of people that I talk to say, well, I actually have a high money set point for organic food, but a very low money set point for, say, luxury items or bling, or, I don't care about handbags or shoes, but I like, but I'll pay for transformation. Now, the reason, aside being for very interesting, the reason that I think money set point is such an important concept in business is that whatever your money set point is, you will tend to assume that the rest of the world has your money set point. And if you have a relatively low money set point, as many coaches and energy healers do, they're not concerned with material things often. They might assume that other people, potential clients, will have a low money set point for their services. But the interesting thing is, most coaches have a very high money set point for transformation. They'll pay thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to become coaches, to train, to certify. I'm guessing that everyone listening to this has a high money set point for at least one thing. And so as you look at, how do I price my services? How do I price my products? Can I see that I'm letting perhaps some of my biases or my instincts control what I think other people will pay, possibly to my detriment.
And so conceptually that makes sense. So then how tangibly does that then show up for someone who is trying to run a business and navigate the day and being successful in that particular way?
Well, one of the things is, and I'm going to talk mostly in terms of coaches and healers, because I'm guessing we have a lot of tapping practitioners and other
Yep.
energy healers on this. It, Often it shows up in underpricing services.
Mhm.
That's the thing that I see most readily. And it's funny because, and we'll do a tapping routine, assuming we have time for this. We'll do a tapping
Yep.
routine, see if we can increase the the perception of money set point for your own services, whatever those services are.
Yeah.
But if you're underpricing yourself, a number of things are happening in your business. Number one, you're not feeding your business. If we think of a business, and often, unless a business has been going for many years and is quite successful, we want to think of a business as like a child. And we need to feed that child and we need to nurture that child. And if we are starving the child because we're not bringing in enough money due to our own fear or due to our own low money set point, then we're hurting this entity called our business. We're also, I think, and this is a real key for me, we're communicating to the world that our services are not as valuable as they actually are. If this event, 24 hours tapping, has taught us anything, it is how incredibly valuable this kind of work is. And so for us to not be willing to stand up and throw our shoulders back and say, wow, this is really valuable and we need to put an appropriate price on it, I think there's work to be done there.
And it's really interesting you say that. Like I first bumped into this years and years ago when I was doing some training, and I purchased a book from an author, from someone that I was really interested in, and it became a really, really lovely like doorstop. Like I didn't do anything with it. Like it sat in front of my, like it was a coaster. It was all of these other things. And then when that particular author came through Baltimore, where I was living at the time, I readily paid $300 to go sit for 2 days with him. And he was up front. He's like, basically what we're going to do for the next couple of days is I'm going to go through this book chapter and verse and just explain everything to you. And so it was the exact same information, but because the author was asking more from me than $19. He was asking 2 days of my time and he was asking $300. And at that point in my life, $300 for training was a significant amount of money. I took it so much more seriously because he was raising his hand and saying, this is how valuable this is. And because he was claiming that value, I was willing to take it more seriously and I showed up more effectively. For years on my podcast, I did a drawing every single episode for a free session with me as a marketing tool. I thought that would be something that was useful. And 1/3 of the winners never scheduled their time. And of the 2/3 that did schedule their time, half of those winners didn't show up for their call because it didn't cost them anything. They had no skin in the game. So like, I thought I was really, really good at what I was doing. And they didn't take the transformation seriously because I wasn't asking anything from them in that particular scenario. And so it's interesting. You're talking about this idea of how we're communicating value. And so it's not just about, I want a lot of money, but I'm demonstrating I am a greater agent of change in the world if you take the work that we are doing together seriously, because you're showing up with your A game, because you have to do the work. I can't do it for you.
I love that story and I love that example because, yes, I'm talking about the lifeblood of a business and valuing your own work and things like that. But what you've brought up, which I think is a really important point, is that for someone to get transformational benefit, they need to be seriously invested. And usually writing a check is one of the ways that people get seriously invested in something.
Yeah.
So yeah, love that. And like I said, that's actually time permitting. That is what I want to end with, is a tapping to completely sort of rewire the money set point around services and offerings and what you do, so that you can give yourself a raise and not just help yourself and your business, but help your potential clients to see the value in what you do.
And so then, other than the fact that maybe I'm not making as much money as I would like, how is someone, be them in a transformational business or otherwise, as they're sharing their gifts, their talents, their services, how does someone recognize the fact that the issue that is getting in the way is my money set point around the thing that I'm offering? Like, how do we recognize that other than the fact I'm not doing it? Because sometimes, we're in a circumstance where it's just like, oh, I just didn't do the right marketing step, or I wasn't in front of the right audience. And so we're saying it's either the tactic we're executing or the audience that we're talking to, where this is something that it's not about those two things, but it's about the thing here. How do we recognize that's the thing that's the problem?
It's a great question. So one of the things that I would look at is, what is your emotional and physical sensation for raising your prices?
Mm-hmm.
So because I know you've experimented with prices in your business. I certainly have too. And for me, mostly experimenting with price is a relatively rational exercise governed by trying to find the sweet spot that provides the best transformation and the right balance and all of that kind of thing. If you think about raising your prices even a little bit, and you close in on yourself, and you have pressure in your chest, and your energy becomes heavy, and you feel short of breath or something like that, then there's an emotional component to where you are. Sometimes too, if when you quote your fees to someone, or you tell someone the price, if you hesitate or freeze before you share it, it's probably an indicator that you're more worried about their opinion of your price than you are about offering something to them. So we're always looking for triggers in tapping. And what is the trigger that gives me the doorway into the issue? In this case, to me, the trigger and the doorway in is, what is my emotional response? Do I become, sort of gibbering with fear when I think of raising my rates? Because if so, it's almost certainly an emotional issue. It may or may not be a low money set point issue, but there's something there tied to money that really needs to change. And it's definitely a money mindset issue.
Yeah. And I think like the other side of the coin, or the other thing that shows up with that particular thing, is for a lot of us, particularly those of us who are in the transformational space, like, we live and breathe the work that we do. Like, I have the business I have today because I was just trying to find a tool to take care of my own social anxiety. And as I was traveling for other work, I was just sharing it with friends. And the next thing I know, I was training people because people were asking questions. I didn't try and land in that particular spot. But now that I have, it's like my life is so much better because I found tapping, not because I have a business. That is great, but my life is so much better because of the internal transformation that I've been able to do, tapping on my own and tapping with someone else. And when I'm that emotionally attached to it, when I start sharing that with people in the world, I feel like I'm sharing me. And it's scary for me to share me because someone is going to say no, because then they're dismissing me. And so intellectually, the way I solve that problem is, well, I'll just ask less money for it, because then they're less likely to say no. And so I'm solving I'm going to be accepted in the world problem by lowering my prices to the point where I can't run a sustainable business inside of that particular thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's even more heartbreaking when you know you're pricing yourself too low and you still get a no, because some people will be no's anyway. So,
right.
Yeah. So I'm really eager to do that tapping routine. We could do it now and then go into the second concept.
Let's do that. Let's do some tapping now, and then let's talk to Biz Health Higher Self after that.
Okay. So I guess I don't have to explain. I'm so used to explaining tapping, and you've already.
That's right. Tapping fluent audience. We've got that taken care of for you.
All right. And if you would be my echo voice, that would be great.
Absolutely.
So we're going to set this up because I really want, if this isn't something you want some help with and you're listening to this, I want you to actually have a trigger. Yay, let's do some more tapping. I love that. I want you to have a trigger going. So whatever you are charging now, consider doubling it. And if your discomfort level isn't over a 5, double it again. I want you thinking about doubling it, and I want your discomfort level somewhere between a 5 and a 10 and a 20. All right. So got that price in mind. Now we'll tap. I can't possibly charge that much.
I can't possibly charge that much.
I am really uncomfortable at charging that much.
I am really uncomfortable at charging that much.
That will never work.
That will never work.
People will think I'm crazy.
People will think I'm crazy.
I can just imagine when I quote my fees,
I can just imagine when I quote my fees,
they're going to gasp
they're going to gasp
and look at me with horror
They're going to look at me with horror
and say, "Who do you think you are?"
and they're going to say, "Who do you think you are?"
Yeah, I can't charge that much.
I can't charge that much.
That's absolutely insane.
That's absolutely insane.
There's no way I could ever do that.
There's no way I could ever do that.
Yet I know my work is important.
Yet I know my work is important.
I know my work can make a difference in people's lives.
I know my work can make a difference in people's lives.
But I still can't charge that much.
But I still can't charge that much.
I should charge less.
I should charge less.
That way I can help more people.
That way I can help more people.
Or maybe I'll just attract more people with a low money set point.
Or I'll attract more people with a low money set point.
That's okay. I'm good with people with a low money set point.
I'm okay with people with a low money set point.
But if they don't value transformation,
they're
going to be really hard clients.
They're going to be really hard clients.
They might even expect me to do the work.
Well,
that's okay. I'm willing to work hard.
That's okay. I'm willing to work hard.
I can't charge that much.
I can't charge that much.
No way I can charge that much.
There's no way I can charge that much.
But my work is so valuable.
My work is so valuable.
It can transform a person's life.
It can transform a person's life.
If only there was a way for them to see it.
If only there was a way for them to see it.
Because it's that important to me. I wouldn't accept $1 million.
I wouldn't accept $1 million
to not know what I know. I wouldn't trade the work that I know for any amount of money.
I wouldn't trade the work that I know for any amount of money.
If it's that important to me, why wouldn't it be valuable to other people? And if I price it too low,
and I
think it's not important, then they're going to pass it by. They're going to say it's not very valuable. I am not willing to make that statement. I'm not willing to have that misunderstanding in the world. This is priceless stuff. And that means I ought to charge for it. I wonder if it's possible. That I could actually raise my fees. Okay, so stop tapping and take a deep breath. Actually, I keep tapping the collarbone every time I say that. So take a deep breath and take a look at your discomfort level now. If it was, let's just say if it was a 7 before and it's a 4 now, great start, right?
So what I noticed as we did this, there's a new product that I'm launching, and I went, great, what happens if I 5X the price on that thing? Because it really is worth 5X of what I'm going to be charging for it. And so after that round of tapping, I went, okay, I can double the price of it. So we haven't 5X'd it, and still getting to that 5X, still like, yeah, really? People are going to pay that much money for that thing? But all of a sudden, there's this space of going, it is not a $500 product. I'm comfortable saying it's a $1,000 product now.
That's exactly it. That's exactly the response that I was looking for. Because the truth is, most people shouldn't double their prices right away. It's going to cause too much of a disconnect. But imagine, just like Jean said, imagine if you could give yourself a 50% raise or even a 25% raise. You know, if you still do single sessions, can you take yourself from 100 to 150 or 200 to 250? Because that's a significant more amount of money coming in that you can do good in the world with.
And one of the things I like to do, and we've talked about this before, is like to help me cognitively get my head around something like that. Let's pretend someone is charging $100 an hour and they want to charge $150 an hour. They could go from $100 an hour to $150 an hour, lose 1/3 of their clients, and make the exact same amount of money. Because at $100 an hour, I need 3 of them, and at $150 an hour, I need 2 of them. And so it is possible that we raise our rates, people go away, but now I'm doing 2/3 the amount of work for the exact same amount of income. And more than likely, I'm going to have higher invested clients at that particular place. And so the quality of our work is actually going to be better when we do that thing.
Perfect. And that's part to me of the I don't just want to work with rich people thing, because some people will say that, well, if I raise my price, only the rich will be able to afford me. But the truth is, you're looking for people like that waitress I talked about who have a high money set point for the transformation you provide. And that's
My friend Tina Roth, who runs the Swiss Miss blog, I wish I knew where she got the quote from, because I want to give proper credit to it. But we were talking about sales, and she said, my favorite quote about sales is nothing more than an exchange of enthusiasm. I am demonstrating my enthusiasm by showing up with the skills that I have and the things that I'm able to do, and being here in a way that I'm engaged with what's going on. My clients are showing up and they're demonstrating their enthusiasm by the time and money that they are investing in that particular thing. And so I can not have a significant amount of money, but be really enthusiastic about something and want to invest whatever money I have in that thing, because I'm fulfilling that thing that I love. And when we can find clients who love the type of transformation that we are providing, like I love it when I'm charging more than a client has ever paid for something, and at the end of it, they feel like they've gotten a swinging deal because the transformation is deep enough to go, oh my gosh, that was absolutely amazing. I would 100% do that again. But it requires me to be in a place where I can do that. For me, like, I can be desperate, overwhelmed, scared, confused at every single moment in my business except 2 times: when I'm doing sales and when I'm working with clients. And when I'm doing sales, I need to be grounded in my confidence to say, yes, this is something that's useful. I hope you come with me. And when I show up as a practitioner, same thing. I need to be in a place where I'm holding a safe from a place of security. And so the other thing I think it's important for us to recognize is we're working on this. I don't have to be over the moon and excited about charging this much all the time. It will be great when you get there. But in the beginning, you just have to hold the space long enough to have the conversation so someone engages in that particular way.
Exactly. Because there's always times when we feel more powerful. And if 15 minutes of tapping get you into a place where you can charge your new rate, whatever that new rate is, during the sales conversation, great. After the sales conversation, you can go back to doubt, or you can tap again. So.
And when I was transitioning from a session model into a high ticket model in my business, when someone was on my calendar for a sales conversation, I had 15 minutes before that where I was, 1, looking over my notes, and 2, I was just tapping the entire time, so that I was showing up from that place that you're talking about, that I'm just grounded and confident in what I'm offering, to just try and find someone who's a good fit for me to work with.
And speaking of showing up in ways, in confidence in your business, that actually leads us into the second
Absolutely.
we talked about. So
let's talk about higher self, business self, and how all that stuff fits together, because I love this exercise.
Right. For this exercise, I'm thinking that what we'll do is we're actually going to go into that. This is a tapping exercise, but it's not a call and response like the one we just did. It's really just a guided visualization. I will probably close my eyes as I'm doing it, just because I do that when I visualize. But if you want to close your eyes, I'm going around the tapping points. It doesn't matter if we're in sync or not. Just continually tap while you're doing this. If you prefer not to close your eyes and you want to just soften your focus, that's absolutely fine. But we're going to take you into a little virtual reality, into a little garden of imagination. And I think you'll be amazed at what shows up for you and your business. So let's do that. So if you want to begin tapping wherever you're comfortable, and first put yourself in a place where you are excited to have a really meaningful, lovely conversation. So maybe that's your backyard garden. Maybe that's your front porch. Maybe that's your living room. Maybe that's your little meditation space. Whatever it is, just imagine that you are there. Take a deep breath and enjoy this feeling of safety and support that you get for being in this space. And move to the next point. And now invite into this space your higher self. This is the part of you that you are when you're working with clients, when you are in that really confident place of sharing your giftedness, and you're working with people and you feel wonderful and you know you're on top of the world. Bring in that version of you that I would call your higher self. Move to the next point. And as you look at this higher self, maybe this looks like a beautiful being of light. Maybe this looks like you on a really good hair day. Maybe this looks like you as you believe that you can be when you're really, really confident. Move to the next point and thank your higher self for coming in to share this time with you and to be with you um, during this exercise that we're going to do. Move to the next point. And now I want you to invite in another part of yourself. This is your business self. Call it your biz self. Your biz self is who you are when you're doing the stuff in your business. It is who you are when you're doing the marketing and doing the sales and dealing with administration things. Tap on the chin. What do you notice about the business self? What do you notice about the business self? For some people, it'll look like a crotchety old person. For some people, it will look like a very harried version of themselves. For some people, it looks like a little monster, like the Tasmanian devil. Whatever it is, fine. Thank your biz self for showing up. And is what do you see about who you are in most of your business operations by looking at that part of you in this space? Move to the next tapping point. And now it's time for a conversation between your higher self and your biz self. So invite the biz self to share what they're most concerned with. What is the thing that's what's the thing that's on their mind? Are they feeling harried? Are they feeling incompetent? Are they feeling unsure? Are they feeling like it's all a big drag? What is that feeling that your biz self has? And just let them express that. We'll move to the next tapping point. Thank your biz self for the expression, and then ask your higher self to share something with your biz self to be helpful. And just sit there and listen and soak it all in. Move to the next tapping point. And as you see this connection between these two parts of you, I invite you to thank both of these parts wholeheartedly for showing up in this conversation, and invite them to stay in touch with each other and with you as you navigate the world around your business. Move to the next point, and when you're ready, let them go. Come back first into your room and then to where you are watching this presentation. When you're ready, just release your arms, stop tapping, shake it out a little bit, deep breath, open your eyes and come back.
So it was interesting as we were going through that. So my business self felt a little hurried and stretched thin. And based on what we're doing today and over the course of the last couple of weeks, that's not a super surprising thing.
Right.
And so what the higher self did, which I thought was really interesting, is it almost like created like this space that was saying, this is what's important and this is what's not.
Ooh.
And it was giving the business self permission to say, there are lots of things that you can be worried about right now. And the things that you actually need to be worried about and the things that you actually need to focus on is inside of this circle. And you have permission to just let go of those other things for now. And if they're necessary to pick up at some point in the future, you can go pick them up in the future. If they're not necessary to pick up in the future, you let them go so they float away. But it just created this sense of like, from this frantic to like, and just calm inside of it. And I know sometimes when I've done this exercise before, because I've done this with you multiple times over the years and the stuff that we've created together, is the shift has been significantly bigger than what just happened there. But boy, is that a really useful thing to feel and experience in the moment, and recognizing that the quality of the gift of the transformation is not equal to the size of the transformation at that particular moment, and how useful that disposition is at this particular moment as we navigate this.
Wow, I absolutely love that. As the quality of the transformation is not necessarily reflective of the size of the transformation. That's
Yeah.
I misquoted you, but it's very profound. And you know, I'd be really interested in the chat what other people experienced. Often, what people say is, "Wow, now I see why it's difficult to run my business, because this part of me that's running it is someone I don't even want to be. I don't even want to associate with." The more and more that the higher self and the biz self start working together and coordinating. I mean, I've done this exercise countless times, and even today, my higher self said to my biz self, and my biz self doesn't look all that bad, but still, the higher self said to the biz self, "Let me help more." And I thought, wow, there's an opportunity there. I'm probably not calling on my higher self as much as I might. I've fallen out of that habit. And so that's an aha for me just from doing this.
And it's really interesting. As you're saying that, this thing that struck me is this idea that oftentimes the people who are in the transformational space see business as a dirty word. And if we're in a situation where there is a part of us that believes that we are sullying ourselves or sullying the transformation process, or I'm not a business person, then we are setting ourselves up for not being successful. And it isn't true in business, it's true in anything. One of the things that I've been meditating on a great deal over the course of the last 6 months is, in order for transformation to happen, we either need to change the way we see ourselves, the way we see the world, or both. That transformation can't happen unless we define ourselves in a new way. And to, like at the beginning, you're talking about like, I have this imaginary business. That was a state in which you're not seeing yourself as a business person. You're seeing yourself as an aspirational business person. And there's a difference between those two things. And it's not like I'm just going to sit here and go, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. Like just imagining something bigger, but really leaning into and recognizing, like, I'd be curious, like, as we went through this, like the folks that bump into this around, like, even acknowledging that I have a business self, and claiming that particular piece of it. Because I mean, like, one of the things that's changed in my life as I talk about the work that I do is I went from calling myself a practitioner to I own a training company. And inside of that, I'm still working with people one-on-one, but like, it's even a shift in the way that, and I had a successful business and I still do, but I'm like, seeing the way I show up in the world and the way I define myself is a really different thing. And part of it was okay for me to claim being a practitioner, but like running a training company, like that sounds really, really fancy schmancy. And I'm not a fancy schmancy person. I have a very curated look on camera, but I'm not. And like stepping into that new definition was such a thoughtful, useful thing in that way. And so like recognizing maybe the first time through this is just giving yourself permission to recognize you have a business self, no matter how small, atrophied, scared that it is as we're stepping into this.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that.
Let's see, what do we got here? Some of the comments here. There was a clear difference between my higher self and my business self. And I'm guessing that that's something that the more we do this, Pamela, that is something that just kind of the distance between those softens and gets shorter.
It does, although it's kind of like fitness, like emotional fitness, mental fitness,
Yeah.
is it will soften with continually doing this exercise. And if you stop it, they will start moving apart again. If you experience challenges in your business, you may find that your biz self is grumpy and we need to pull it together again.
I like that of saying that my biz self is grumpy and looking at it in that particular way. What else do we have here? My biz self is saying it's too busy doing all the things. My higher self said, you don't have to do all the things, but hire out some things so you can do the important work for your clients. Like that's the transition that's happened in my business. One of the reasons why that we're able to be doing an event like this is I hired my sister full time to work for me back at the beginning of May. And I'm now in a situation where I get to go, okay, great. My place of expertise inside of this business is to be creating content, teaching, and working with clients. And those other things are things that someone else can do in a really successful way, which liberates me to live in the place that I love. So it's not that we're just stuck there, but we're in there and we're getting stuck in that particular place. But I can move to this place that is much more dynamic and healthy for me.
Such a great example of, I think, growing into a really effective biz self, not because you're doing everything, but so that you can outsource it.
And we got one other question here. How do you stop the feeling of overwhelm when it gets crazy busy?
If I tell you, it will be because Jean taught me this. Okay. So I've got to credit you for this. The first thing I do is make a list, because one of the reasons we get overwhelmed is because it's all in our heads, and because the human brain just can't entertain all of the things that it needs to. On the brain is a thinking device, not a storage device. You try to store the list in your head and think about it, it causes overwhelm. So make a list. And often I find making a list just calms a lot of the overwhelm, but it also enables me to see what I'm looking at and what I'm worried about, and the things that I'm worried about that I can pull out, then I can tap on. So I'm not trying to tap on everything on the list, but until I make the list, I don't know what the critical elements are. And making a list is, if I ask Jean, I'm overwhelmed, she's like, did you make a list?
And as you say, I love that you're talking about this idea that it's a thinking device, not a storage device, that I have a tack board that is right here off the camera that I literally call my external hard drive. Like for my brain, I'm just like, I know that if I write it down, I'm going to stop worrying about it and I can see it. And then I can manage what is in front of me as we do that. I actually have a friend of mine who, once she makes a list to make it manageable, she makes her list on Post-it notes. And there's only one task on each of the Post-its. So when she looks down at her to-do list, there's only one task on the to-do list. And then when she does it, she peels that task off and the next one presents itself. But not only has she gotten it out of her head, she is then curating it in such a way so she's not looking at everything all at once.
Oh, that's brilliant. I really like that idea. Yeah. So hopefully that's a helpful piece of advice. Start by making a list, and then you can tap.
Excellent. Well, Pamela, thank you very much for both of those exercises and doing a little tapping with us. And thanks for sharing your time with us on this Saturday.
My pleasure as always, Jean. I wish you the best for this amazing event. And I hope that people will contribute to the great cause that you're supporting here.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Pamela. Very good.